Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to SP Reviews, where today I have the pleasure of reviewing an album by an act named Killah Threat, titled The Hood Delegate. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the album on the screen. We've previously reviewed Grim Killers, which is another album released in 2022 by Killah Threat. We're going to listen through the first 6 tracks today from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. Starting with 1984.
Bread life.
Really fantastic start with these synths coming in with a slow build there, nice and sparkly. Oh, okay. So immediately with the hook line, nice. Nice colourful little vocal line here. Use of woodwinds there, fantastic leads in the centre. Really centralizing around that hook line there, getting it stuck in your head.
I'm too spray, pants creased up on my OG. Fresh out the cut like toothpaste. Hop in the whip, paint too wet. Slide through the town till sunset. Blowing that loud like cornet. Take 100 just to get a quartet. Living a diamond life. I don't break the oath if we see a light. Seeing visions on the surface, right?
Again, fantastic pronunciation and rapping there. Like the flow is nice and clear and crisp and nice and quick there. The production quality is really solid.
With my brethren, we run through the night. We run through the night.
Interesting use of those reverse strings as well.
Since 1984, 1984, 84, 1984, 1984, 84, 1984, 1984, 84, 1984, 1984, 84, 1984, 84, 84.
Interesting kick on the groove on the kicks as well. They're nice and active within this mix. I kind of enjoy that. Sometimes people stick with the chord note accents there, but there you have room, especially if it's mixed well.
84, 84, 84, 1984, 1984, 1984, 1984. I know a hating nigga wanna be me. I be laid back, smoking on the green leaf. I'm a giant, all these other niggas kiwi. Get your girl, take her home, then ski. Do it in the bed like a renegade. Taste like M&M's and they smell like a marinade. I don't want my lay, y'all say with the lemonade. And she ain't afraid to ride it till it disintegrate. She got the Medicaid for that snapback.
Got that Medicaid for that snapback there, man. Again, the flow, man. Coming out from 1984, I assume this is the year that it was born or something like that.
Crossing over these train tracks, I stop, she out of that lilac. Now I am the man, keep these women sore. Was bred in 1984, 1984, 84.
Yeah, so this is about him coming up, the experiences he had since he grew up. Okay.
1984, 1984, 84, 1984, 1984, 84, 1984, 1984, 84, 84. 1984, 1984, 1984, 1984. All my life I've been the
Oh, a third verse. I wasn't expecting there to be a third verse, but that's cool.
Feel me that my niggas salute. Haven't dealt with this a money lag. Cut it, watch how everything follows suit. Splitting it down the middle with the family. Ever since we had the baggies, I remember like it's just a day. House was crowded but nobody played. In my circle we eliminate. Put in the pot and we circulate. A ghetto vet when I'm pushing weight. If you don't hustle you never ate. This is just my life, I cannot ignore. Brought up since 1984, 1984.
So is it talking about how the house is crowded and everything like that? He came from a place where things maybe weren't so great and now things have gotten better or something like that? I know it's very simplified. There's a lot of information put through on this track, and you know, aside from the simplicity of the hook, I just feel like you need multiple listens to really get the hang of everything that was going on lyrically, you know? That motif in the back with the repeated sort of inverted strings and everything like that is really cool sounding though, and works well regardless of whether or not the drums are there. It does kind of sound like a dream sequence, you know, especially with that kind of trippy sounding woodwind in the high range. But no, it's a great start to proceedings, especially with the variation with those sort of clappy sounds and then the little hi-hat centers and stuff like that. I like the fact that we're letting the instrumentation kind of carry us out on this first track. Yeah, great start to proceedings. And that fade out at the end was nice and classy. Heatwave, track number 2 though.
Real nigga weather report. And with some St. Louis history, the St. Louis Cardinals won their first title in 1926. And St. Louis is known for their monument of the Gateway Arch. Also, it is the home of Chuck Berry and Tina Turner. Hey, get a fire extinguisher, because St. Louis is hotter than Africa. It's hotter than a dragon's mouth. It's so hot, I saw the devil eating a freeze pop.
I like the facts that we got spit there in that first part there. I like the tone of the announcer on the radio. I can tell it's a radio announcer because they've got the filter on the vocals there. I like the brass and the strings we've got there, that kind of 60s to 70s kind of feel with the orchestration into it. It makes you wonder what's going to happen next.
What's the temperature? It's hot as hell in the city. Get a minister. Okay. I wish that life one day will go back to
Hot as hell in the city, get a minister. It's lines like that, man. That wordplay.
the UPS man won't get out to get a signature. I'll go outside, I back and then turn on the speaker. I think the weather playing around like a swindler. The Fahrenheit is disrespectful to all visitors. I'm dying if I'm lying, I know you feel similar. In a white beat with my back all sweaty. This the third shirt I had to change into already. People talking about me cause my shirt is so job petty. I don't have no AC in my ride, y'all do, I'm jelly. Now I wanna stay cool, but the heat is like a stalker. I tried to buy a drink, but people stingy with the water. The heat index is climbing, had to check up on my father. Cause St. Louis weather doesn't play, it just gets hotter.
Yeah, so this is basically about a heat wave and his world, the world around him during that time. A lack of an AC in that weather sounds absolutely brutal, dude.
I just throw on my shades and try to make a way through this daily catastrophe, baby. It's too hot to handle. Want the public? It's too hot to handle. You learn to love it. I just throw on my shades and try to make a way through this daily catastrophe, baby. It's too hot to handle, motherfucker. It's too hot to handle. You learn to love it. Another day in the loop town, battling this heat wave. This bag of ice, I keep it close like it's a keepsake. You know it's too hot when the ground can cook a pancake. By 7 o'clock it be 90 when the day breaks.
I love how active and the groove and sense of movement with the drums and the bam bam bam, the simplicity of that sort of the melody in the background with the brass articulating it in that higher range there on the sides occasionally at the end of the stanza.
Mama looking good, sipping on a milkshake. She say your brains are
Like that, you know? It dances on the sides of the vocals in the center.
Gotta get this cheesecake. Can't get arrested cause the customer during intake. I tried to catch a breeze.
And there's so much personality as well in the vocal performance here. He's not just working with a da 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 ba 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 bam bam. There's movement there. We don't really deserve it, but we got it. It's dope, man.
Play the game, you get outbid. Hot girl, summer, here's my number, you've been outdid.
And that bass line in the bottom is just so nicely handled. You know, it's nicely being nicely sidechained by the kicks.
I just throw on my shades and try to make a way through this daily catastrophe, baby. It's too hot to handle. Want the public? It's too hot to handle. You learn to love it. I just throw on my shades and try to make a way through this daily catastrophe, baby. It's too hot to handle, motherfucker. It's too hot to handle. You learn to love it.
Okay, basically, so I think that track is just about Killah Threat getting out there and putting on the shades and getting through the heat wave and dealing with whatever comes his way. I don't think it's literally just about a heat wave. There's more nuance to it than that. It's got a sense of glory with those strings and him getting through the challenges that lie ahead. I enjoy that. And again, we've got that really sort of classy fade out at the end. With those sort of cicada chirpish kind of hi-hats there. Nice combination of elements within that. It's a really pleasant album to listen through so far. We've got Money Chat number 3 though, with Virgo Sounds and Cool Cal. More of this brass here with the acoustic tom fills. Really grandiose introduction.
We counted like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, 11,000, 12,000. Let my money chat, boy, I let my money
Those gongs on the start of it have a great reverb tail to them, man. They work well as a kind of accenting of each start of the new line of the chorus. And it's just a little thing, you know, it's a little sort of filtered, sort of sampled tom fill there to transition into the verse there. I assume we're going to probably have a verse per person, which would be cool. Be good to hear them differently.
No matter which way I get it, I flip it, he know when they know my state like Ocean 11. Getting bread with my brethren. Then I turn down the mall, so I look fresh like a reverend. When we up in the club, we buy every fifth at the bar. And we might pop a few bottles and leave the rest in the car. Now that's the life of a star. And the squad is a constellation. We're purping my cigar. And people smell with anticipation. My money's so heavy, I need a scale and a calculator to calculate, formulate every avenue of getting paper. I'm not on the block no more because I travel the almanac.
You know, bam, 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 bam. You don't find me really talking too much about the motifs past the first part because simply they are just repeating them. But I think that the motifs behind the vocals are strong enough that they can stand on their own for like 4.5 minutes because of the variation of the vocals having different singers or rappers on board. I think that's kind of what allows it to remain palatable throughout, even on a slightly longer form factor track. Of course, the storytelling as well, you know. Again, the repetition of these rhythms here, 10,000, 5,000, 6,000. You know, like you can follow along to it even after the first time. It's catchy and memorable and easy to kind of groove with. And Virgo sounds. Different vocal timbre and texture there, so easy to figure out who's who. Definition of real, and it's a lesson I learned. You get a lot of that pussy when you got money to burn. Make a connection or maybe make you perfection. Flaws go out the window whenever you get the flexing. Me, I've been one for stunning and never been one for stressing. Tell me she need affection, I tell her to get the stepping. Nothing before this money, and mostly women are funny. Holla, she not a hoe, but when you broke, she running. So if she say she got a man, don't believe that. Try this, pull a band, let the money chat. Let my money chat. Damn. Pull out a band to let the money chat. Damn, man. Yeah. I mean, like, there'll be people that potentially have an issue with that angle of things, but I know people personally who change when you show them money. It's just the way some people are, you know? At the very least, people can look after themselves, right? So, you know, that's kind of important. You don't want to be sort of having to babysit someone. Cool, Cal. Money comes and it goes, so it's nothing to me. Take the show on the road for a couple G's. 8 bars of the flow, worth a couple keys. Been getting paper ever since I was a young dude. Stack it up, ball out, kick it like kung fu. A man who don't work, don't eat. And my stomach big as I remember nights with no heat. Stomach rumblings, Killah Gate. I like the fact that they look back on what the experiences they've had previously and go, oh, you know, I know I'm in this position now, but it wasn't always like this, and I'm kind of grateful for that, you know? I ain't fumbling, said with my chest, I'm a man, no mumbling, nothing else to do, so this cash, what I'm gonna get, I'm heating up like clothes in the dryer, just tumbling. If you know me, then you know I'm about to pop a bottle and celebrate life, cause I ain't got hit with hollows, and the last thing on my mind is a stank coat, staying on my grind just to pile up a bankroll. I like the fact that the textures and timbres of the vocalists are separate, differentiated, but they also make sense within the piece itself. These are clearly musicians who understand how to collaborate and interact with each other, and there's a great chemistry. Oh, nice use of the LP stop there, kind of to... Okay, cool, I can get behind that. And we just letting that thing play out. No fade out in that one. I kind of adore that. Let the instrumental be strong. Let it stand proud, man. After the guy said no mumbling, the last thing you want is the music to go out quietly. Excellent showing, man. So we've got our solos done. We got our interactives done. We got Dating World track number 4.
Listen and pay attention. KT on the track.
Now there is some things you should know in this dating world.
I was expecting it to be a lot more intense with that, with the shot, the loading of the gun at the start. But we got a song about Dating World now. It's a little more playful with that 90s kind of R&B soulish kind of vibe there.
I swear these niggas ain't shit. You know your mama's mama told you niggas ain't shit. These niggas ain't shit.
It's so playful, man. It's so playful. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
To be exclusive, you wanna be a team, but it gives you all excuses. You wanna live the dream, but with him that is elusive. You ask him for a ring, and he might find that abusive. But you think you see improvement, or a start to an evolution? Cause you know you the queen. Even though he acting stupid, money don't mean a thing. When you got it, no assuming. You should start acting mean. Since he acting like a doofus, baby girl, don't let him ruin you, insulting you.
I like the fact that Killah Threat is trying to encourage people to not be taken advantage of by others. I like how active that drum kit is and the variation with the different grooves here. How we have the kind of bow, 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 bow. The really interesting harmony there. And then it kind of comes in with those kicks and the spaces that it's left there as a call and response.
He was cool at first, but now there's a problem with the skeleton in your closet, but you changed and grew into your elegance. Slanging on whoever, don't let him knock you out your element. Your element. Now there is some things you should know in this dating world. Keep your heart protected on the low, and do not unfurl. When these rules apply to the both, either boy or girl. It's an affirmation or a pose that can save the world. I know you.
The guy's a good singer as well. Like the melodies that are in harmonies there are really pleasant to listen to, and they're a nice contrast to his sort of more straightforward rapping stuff. Even the melodic rapping, he's got range there, and with a colorful sort of backing arrangement, the accompaniment there with the bass, the interesting sounding sort of like the clap on the snares, you know, it's great. So fresh sounding.
Mama told you niggas ain't shit. These niggas ain't shit. I swear these niggas ain't shit. You need more than the bling to impress a mama seat.
Great job with the filtering here.
Really wanna meet
nice change, and I was unexpected.
Interact her like a feature. Don't lead her by a string, cause she might just be a keeper. So you met a senorita, and you bought her a margarita, cause you know you the king. Of emotions, you can read her. She has high self-esteem. You can tell that she's a diva. There is no in between. You can tell by her demeanor. Now you order some tequila shots at the bar that are gelatin. She was cool at first, but now she wanna turn up on her arrogance. Saying you can't get a number and you are not relevant. You just
Damn, dude. Yeah, things took a turn for the worse, didn't they? Are these experiences that Killah Threat's gone through, or are these ones that he's heard about?
And ignore all the negligence. Now there is some things you should know in this dating world.
And back to that hook. Cool. Straightforward. You know, angle from the guy and the woman perspective, you know.
I swear these bitches ain't shit. You know your daddy's daddy told you bitches ain't shit. These bitches ain't shit. I swear these bitches ain't shit. Now there is some things you should know. Keep your heart
okay, cool. Good job. Having several different layers over top, a little bit of development on the outro chorus.
Now there is some things you should know in this dating world. Keep your heart protected on the low, and do not unfurl. When these rules apply to the both, either boy or girl. This an affirmation or a pose that can save the world. Now there is some things you should know in this dating world.
Man, I'm enjoying my time with this. It's such a chill album though. Like, sometimes I listen to music and I get pumped up, and sometimes I just feel really sort of calm and comfortable with music I'm listening to. I'm enjoying my time with Killah Threat. It's a really solid record so far. I like the fade out at the end. I think that, again, when you've got these kind of old-timey sort of 60s and 70s elements there, having fade-outs makes sense. Oh, for the Hustlers Part 2. Oh, this is very different. Kind of reminds me of some of the West Coast stuff in the 90s.
This for my niggas who did backflips on the mattresses, living in poverty but ignoring the damages. Throughout the hood, every set had their own practices. I used to lope and stayed away from blood pathogens. My pop was my role model, but I was a student of society that would thug it out but keep it coolin'. Dreams are ruined by empty promises, there's no improvement. To our choosing, we either bang it out or get the shooting. To my
damn, man, it sounds horrific. I just can't imagine that, eh?
Much change, cause we evolved from the gang, getting money and popping champagne, but rep the set always. Spider Judas, we beat that ass, that was the good old days. Running from cops, we jumping gates through people's backyard, then we rendezvous, like what up, God? It wasn't hard to keep it thorough, cause in my youth I knew I was a pharaoh, not just another child of the ghetto. Hey, this for the hood. This is for the G's, yep, this is for the hustlers.
There's a lot to appreciate with the little jangly janglies there, you know, in the background. Like, I like the sound of it, even though it sounds sort of bittersweet, almost melancholy. There is a sense of sadness in there, which makes sense with the story. The drums are nice and straightforward. There's not as much action in there because it's more about following the flow of the story as opposed to kind of having constant movement there. It's not as, you know, that sub layer of the vocals at the bottom is beautiful. Harmonizes really well with those strings.
Yep, this is for the hustlers. Yep, this is for the hustlers. Yep, this is for the G's. This is for the G's. Yep, this is for the hustlers. Yep, this is for the hustlers. Yep, this is for the G's.
Again, we're paying attention to the repetition of these rhythms to get it stuck in the head. They're really catchy. We've really nailed our hooks in this one. Again, the combination of the this is for the G's, this is for the hustlers on the left. Ba, 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 ba. You know, that kind of stuff. I mean, I can't sing that well, but like that sort of falsetto kind of head voice vibe there as a sub, and then everything else going on with the bass line, drums and all. It's a cool combination, dude.
When much is given, there is much required. Fuck throwing sets, throw a dollar sign. Been gang related, I can be your guide. Cause I jumped off the porch before the age of 9. Dance with the devil, playing in the fire. Establish code, cause that's the way I'm wired. The real would say I'm preaching to the choir. What age we all evolve if your soul desires. Do for community, please be inspired. Don't be responsible for who expires. Had this conversation with my pop and Uncle Vincent. My father understood, my uncle only showed resentment.
Damn. It's interesting, eh? That you have those two people and they can have completely different reactions to it depending on their own life experiences, I assume. Don't be responsible for who expires is a really classy way of saying that. Damn, man. I feel like this is the next evolution of what I heard from the previous album, Grim Killers. Well done, Killah Threat. You're nailing it, dude.
My aunt Benita once said I was tripping. But I love her dirty drawers and her dirty dishes. My cousin Blue said, cause be careful with this 60 crippin'. But if I help usher in a loss, then it's my job to fix it. This is for the G's, yep, this is for the hustlers. Yep, this is for the hustlers. Yep, this is for the G's. This is for the G's, yep, this is for the hustlers. Yep, this is for the hustlers. Yep, this is for BG's. This is for the G's, yep, this is for the hustlers. Yep, this is for the hustlers. Yep, this is for the G's.
See, really simple drum beat just helps to keep the flow of the vocals going along there. We've got a good idea of balance and equilibrium in the arrangement with how we put the vocals with the bass and the drums and the guitar and everything like that. Really well produced, actually. The little glicks and little flicks in the side as well. It's stunning, dude. And just having the motif carry us out, man, that backing theme. Nothing but love for it, dude. Sensational with it. And just that sort of really classy fade out. I don't really have any complaints about the album so far. Like, honestly, like after listening to this, it's like I'm listening to something from like a major label. I think that's even with the reputation of major labels nowadays, I still feel that that's a compliment, right? The Gift, featuring Grim Giuliani and Easy Coltrane. A lot darker than what I had previously, with just those really kind of aggressive 808s and the kind of heavily distorted sort of melody on the side.
I'm equipped with a gift for your bitch. I'm the shit. I am sick.
Interesting choice for the falsetto.
Get you lip, get you hits, get you twist. My mix is a difference. I love the I'm equipped with a
I don't think I'm getting all the words clearly with the falsetto part and the vocals.
I am sick of a bag. One whip, get you lip, get you hits, get you twisted. My mix is a difference. I love to get lifted.
Yo, pimpin', I put on my mink, then I go hit up the streets. It's routine, I'm out every week, so tell me what you know about me. Looking so fresh and so clean, crispiest nigga you seen. Cardio swimming in green, but I'm aware of the greed. Hop in a whip, I ski skirt. Gotta keep a tone in t-shirt. Cause when the money calling, I will hear a chirp.
He's so quick. That's polish. That's precision, you know?
We make it home when I'm off work. Cause I take all the shine till the light gone. Never have it back and forth like ping pong. They gon' all it be, wanna me, no clone. Like a fly, like a sharp in the end zone. In the middle, do my dance like Dion. Pimp tight, cooler like Freon. Wave off peons.
Is this the same rapping? Because there's a different tone to the different musicians here. Was that Killah Threat in both of them? Because this sounds a whole lot sort of brighter in this one than I had previously.
Time delegate, phenom. Keep calm or I'll go pecan. Gotta get the paper, gotta get the cash up. I'm in love with the money, I gave it a burr hook. Then I run it up for a few, then unplug. Trust on my liquor, trust on my blood. This is the bread. Forget if you like us or not. Forever we reppin' the block when I open shop. If you come and you a op, you might have to run me your watch. Simple. I never really did the tough guy act, the tough guy rap. I just stay fast. I'ma say that it's mission critical. I'm equipped with the gift and it's ridicule.
With a gift for your bitch. I'm the shit.
I like the fact that he admits he's not a massive fan of like the tough guy act and everything like that, and but that is mission critical, you know. This is one of those situations.
I am sick of a bag of that bitch. One whip, get you lip, get you hits, get you twisted.
One whiff get you lit, 2 shots get you twisted. Is that it?
It's a difference. I love to get lit.
The mix is addicting.
For your bitch, I'm the shit. Here to kiss. I am sick of a bag of that bitch.
It is double tracked to be fair though, so that's kind of dope that we could get the notes in unison like that.
Mix is a difference. I love to get lit.
Goddamn, I'm in the jam with all this ham and all these pigs. Fuck trying to chug, I'm trying to jig, nigga, what it does, know what it is. Look here, the biz, fuck asking a question, you better respect them or you'll get a blessing. So don't make me check on my cousin, will wreck on my dogs with a take up a bitch in they presence. Somebody come help them, cause I've been the freshest, since freshman the freshest. Look, I'll teach you a lesson on how to finesse it. The swagger from heaven, the smoking and gagging, the fact of the matter, the jacker from hell. Bred in the stable.
Damn. You would have struggled to take a breath there in that moment. That constant triplets, dude. And a little bit of sort of down octave vocal modulation there was great. Because even if it's fantastic that we can rap for that long with that flow, you know, it's quite a lot of that same rhythm. So adjusting it harmonically was a smart idea there.
In the cradle, fuck all of them haters, I'm pulling the cable.
Whoa, hold up. You don't really want to see
Easy Coltrane?
Been shitted on the game, niggas know us. 04 had the whole game sold up. Yeah, niggas wanna play with it. Call me Persia Miller cause it's still no limit. Still like to run around limo tinted. Smoking it, ain't gotta ask who did it. Double gang bang bang, it's like the beginning. My niggas keep winning, we do like we supposed to. Hustling daddy, don't trip over foes. Do getting the paper that be on my focus. Ripping and killing.
Again, that little sort of cicada kind of hi-hats on the side there. It's just, sometimes it's the little things where they can be a little bit too sharp, but we managed to get them nice and quiet in here so that they don't interfere too much with the main sort of focal point of the vocals. They're almost a sub-layer at this point.
Probably a lot and there's more than a little bit. All my niggas down until the end. Fresh to death, that's how we always been.
Fresh to death is how we always been. I mean, I'm not sure how to take this track.
I am sick of a bag of that bitch. One whip, get you lip, get you hits, get you twisted. My mix is a difference. I love to get lit. I'm equipped with a gift for your bitch. I'm the shit. Here to kiss. I am sick of a bag of that bitch. One
And we just got the motif carrying us out. Cool, that's fine. I want... Oh, okay. I mean, that's a fun little element to have the vocals harmonizing well with everything else. Oh, we're gonna know more of that? I suppose it makes sense. Are we gonna fade out or keep it kind of quiet? We are fading out a little bit. Yeah, okay, there was like pianos and guitars and stuff like that as well that I didn't hear because I was focusing on other elements there. We had a constant eighth, sort of broken chord eighth note kind of thing going on with the keys on the sides of the stereo field there. You know, like just gave it a little bit sort of extra tension there, but we're also really kind of pretty, so I mellowed it out a little bit, ironically. So this is the conclusion of my review of the Hood Delegate, which is an album by Killah Threat. What do I think this album is about? I think it's about Killah Threat talking about his time as the Hood Delegate, talking about 1984, the year he was born, and his experiences growing up and throughout. The heat waves and the place that he's in, how hot things get, and what he had, you know, with no aircon and everything like that. Money Chat, which is talking about, with Virgo Sounds, and Cool Cow, which was talking about, you know, how people, you know, if you have money, life is a bit easier, and sometimes people will sort of be different depending on what you're carrying. Dating World, which is talking about different people and you know, how they interact with each other and the pitfalls of dating and sort of relationships and all that kind of stuff. For the Hustlers Part 2, I think, was Killah Threat discussing his life sort of growing up and his experiences when he was younger, and sort of like, you know, dealing with stuff like how people interacted and fighting and not being responsible for sort of, you know, like being responsible for the deaths of other people, and how the expectations of the people around him and how it contrasts to his life now, sort of popping bottles and everything like that. And then The Gift. The Gift was a different one. I'm not really sure what The Gift was about. I don't know whether it's a gift of like the person being good at music or the way that they carry themselves, or if it's like an actual tangible thing that's like a gift or something like that. So I'm not really sure how to take that, but either way, I'm sure that someone will let me know in the comments. It might just be that I need a bit more time listening through it, which is absolutely fine. I wouldn't mind doing that, as I did enjoy listening to these different tracks throughout this album. The first half of it is very strong. I think that the vocals throughout were really, they were great. You know, the rapping flow that we had from Killah Threat and most of, if not all the tracks, was sensational. Lots of different 8th, 16th, and sort of 30-second grooves with a really sort of clear pronunciation, precise wording of things. A little bit of wordplay occasionally, the Medicaid for the broken back and all that kind of stuff, and needing a priest for the being hot like hell, you know, stuff like that. A little clever sort of bit of personality and sense of humor there is nice and welcome in an album like this. I think it's fantastic. I think that what we were doing in regards to the clean vocals as well, and some of those hook sections and stuff, was fantastic. We showed off an understanding of the head and chest voice. We were comfortable in both. It wasn't like a Mariah Carey kind of 5-octave affair, but at the same time, I think that it was definitely enough for some legato passages, a little bit of vibrato occasionally, just enough to kind of differentiate and separate the verses and choruses really well. And when we did sort of like do the overlapping sort of clean vocals, the harmonies were clean there. I think that the way it was rapped or the way it was sung made sense with the context. Sometimes it was a little more playful, like in Heatwave or Dating World. Other times it was a little bit more sort of like morose and kind of serious, like for the Hustlers and The Gift, you know, because it wouldn't have been appropriate to have the same tone of delivery in those tracks. They're about different concepts. And I think that it's good that we had that emotional range and depth within that, and that we were able to sort of like articulate and sort of explain ourselves in a way that made sense with the harmonies as well as the story and everything like that. And there was a great presence to the vocals in the mix as well. I like the panning of the vocals on the sides occasionally and in the centers others. There were a lot of really sort of smart decisions made in that regard. The motifs behind each of the tracks, there was usually one sort of main concept per song. I think it was fine, even with tracks that were as long as like 4.5 minutes. I don't think it was necessarily a detriment to have things kind of be just that kind of sort of one sort of main chorus line or bass line. Some of the songs had like that one note groove, like Heatwave I think had like an 808 bass kind of constantly pumping with the sidechain kicks there. Sometimes we had interesting sort of chromaticisms, I think, like in Dating World field where like we kind of had some jazzy progressions there. The gift there, and you know, for the Hustlers, had some interesting sort of arpeggiated sort of parts on the keys and guitars, some plucked sort of little sort of melodic lines on the sides there with some occasional sort of foalish kind of tones on the opposites. You know, there were lots of different ingredients like sort of strings and brass, especially in like Heatwave and Money Chat, those coming in there in 1984. It was fantastic to explore different styles of music from like the 60s, 70s kind of Motown kind of stuff, the 90s kind of West Coast hip hop and sort of R&B, and sort of more sort of contemporary production styles like in The Gift. You know, we carried these well. The instruments used were appropriate. The chord progressions, rhythms, and bass lines, and the way that things were played from a backing perspective were fantastic. We knew how to sort of harmonize and place the vocals in a way, regardless of whether it was Virgo Sounds, Cool Cal, Grim Giuliani, or Easy Coltrane, in a way that made sense with the rest of the elements of each of the tracks within this album, and it was good. You know, there was chemistry between the vocalists whenever we had a track, and there was no point where I felt any of the tracks were weak. There was not a note out of place. I'm not sure how much of it was recorded versus sampled. I don't particularly mind though, because it sounded great. I think that as long as you can nail the parts you obviously did record, like the vocals, and as long as the backing behind it is interesting to listen to, and obviously as long as if you need to do live performance, it's actually tangible to do live, that's what matters. Especially nowadays with the way the music industry is, you know? So yeah, I think the verse chorus structure did well. We didn't need any solo sections because their stories were typically interesting enough. And yeah, the production, recording, mixing, and mastering was sensational. Lots of interesting little ideas with like the way the vocals were recorded and filtered and EQ'd. Sometimes it'd be on the left or the right, sometimes in the center we'd have overdubs, and sometimes they'd be double tracked. And I think that's great that we nailed all those particular aspects. Rap and hip hop typically has a prominence, a focal point of being the vocals, and we managed to smash that out of the park. I think that one of the parts in The Gift was recorded on a different microphone than the rest, as there was a lack of the high range clarity that we had with other bits, like from Killah Threat across his other tracks. But I don't necessarily mind that. I think that's absolutely fine. It might have just been recorded on a different microphone in a different studio. I think nonetheless we managed to absolutely smash out the vocal takes there. And I think that the instruments throughout the album were well leveled, EQ'd, filtered, and the positions of them in the stereo field were fantastic. Sometimes we had sort of strings on one side, like guitar part or synth modulated part on one side, and then like another opposing element here. We didn't just copy and paste stuff to both sides. We had things going around the headphones in a really fascinating way that made it interesting to listen to with or without the vocals or the storytelling, which is why I didn't typically mind that we had an expansion of the track in the form of the motif with just the little sort of sub-layerish vocals occasionally, that kind of stuff going on. It was great, you know. It was very professional sounding. You know, the repeaters used were fantastic, you know, to fill in the space there, but we also didn't oversaturate the vocals or other elements in the mix in a way that would have made it sort of like too thick or thin sounding. I liked the fact there was dynamic range within this album. We not only had fade-ins and fade-outs or little builds there, interesting synth intros. We had points where like things would just kind of drop out in one position of the frequency spectrum, like the drums would cut out, or things sort of dance around, or a little filtering like in the vocals of the intro of Heatwave. They kind of made it sound like he was going through a radio there. And, you know, alongside the leveling, the lack of weird resonances in the frequency spectrum, and really competent compression limiting where there was nice and loud without pumping. That's effectively my review of the Hood Delegate, which is the latest album from Killah Threat. And that is effectively my review of it. I hopefully enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check out Killah Threat's various social medias and Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.